Max Verstappen just had a weekend to forget in Bahrain, and even though he extracted the absolute maximum with that P6 finish, threats have started to arrive that he's not going to tolerate this type of performance anymore, with a lot being at stake because of the nature of Verstappen's competitiveness, as well as the furious conversation that his manager had with Marko. Could we see a very difficult future for the Austrian team? The situation in Red Bull is now at an alarming stage, with Verstappen suffering from a very poor pace on all types of tyres that were mounted on his car. The four-time world champion is not happy with the current development path of the Austrian team, which is why his manager was seen screaming directly in Marko's face in the garage of Red Bull. Prior to this, the team announced an emergency meeting that will consist of Marko, Horner, Wash and Moynihan, and the concerns of Verstappen are definitely going to be voiced by the veteran Austrian. When talking about this situation, Ted Kravitz from Sky F1 said that he saw it unfolding. As he elaborated, Raymond Vermeulen, Max's manager, came into the Red Bull garage and gave Helmut Marko what can only be described as a piece of his mind. He was remonstrating with Marko, who was just standing there taking it, and then Raymond stormed off the back of the garage, sort of taking his pass as he went. Clearly, they are not happy. This is not the only statement that Max had regarding the disappointment in the team. When talking to the Dutch media Viaplay, one that has gone on to ask Verstappen about the talks that he should have with the team, the four-time world champion stated that the talks are going to be interesting for the media only. He also said that he doesn't really have anything to talk about with the team right now because of the poor situation they are in, and if upgrades don't come sooner rather than later, things are definitely going to change for the worse for the Austrian team. Eric Van Haren has also stated how happy Red Bull should be that the situation hasn't been escalated to the level you would have expected from Verstappen. Elaborating further on this, Eric said, "The team led by Christian Horner can count themselves lucky that Verstappen held his tongue after such a frustrating weekend. Had he really spoken his mind, the criticism would have been deafening." You don't have to be a genius to understand that something is truly wrong with Red Bull at this stage. The development path of the team has gone south faster than they could have projected. For example, last year Verstappen won the Bahrain GP with a 22-second advantage over the second driver, and this year he finished 34 seconds behind Piastri, which is more or less a minute slower compared to last year. Nothing massively changed in terms of the regulations, and it's a drop that we can compare to Aston Martin as well. So with all this in mind, there is no doubt that the team will have their hands full of work in the following period. Verstappen was asked about the upgrades that are yet to come on the RB21, and his blunt response gave us the feeling that he doesn't actually care about words anymore. He just wants to see action and movement from inside the team. Addressing this, he went on to say, "I don't want to hear how much is coming or how much that should matter. I just want it to come, and then we'll see how much comes out." And it's the same feeling that Helmut Marko has as well, because he's been the one thoroughly supporting Max in the internal power struggle that happened in Red Bull last year. At this stage of their existence, one couldn't help but ask if this is the root of all the problems that the team started to encounter, especially if you see where the prior leaders of the team ended, like Rob Marshall in McLaren. When talking about the upgrades being an absolute necessity in the following period, as well as improving the pit stop performance of the car, Marko has gone on to say, "We need to get the car's performance back as quickly as possible, and standards like a pit stop have to work. If the car is not the fastest and then the pit stops don't work either, that is not acceptable." The bad news for Verstappen, or more importantly for Red Bull, is that the correlation issues that have existed in the past are still present, as admitted by Horner. The team principal of Red Bull had a very poor opinion of the data they're receiving from the wind tunnel, which is something that we are likely going to see convert into the remainder of the car's development in 2025. Elaborating further on this, Horner said, "The solutions that we see in our tools do not match the circuit. The wind tunnel has taken us in a direction that doesn't show the same thing on track." The feeling from Verstappen is far from positive as well. The Dutchman spoke about the competitiveness against McLaren in Bahrain, and while you'd expect this to be a very optimistic approach after the Suzuka win, it's quite the contrary. The four-time world champion doesn't think that he has any chance of fighting at the front whatsoever, and elaborating further on this, he went on to say, "McLaren are not my rivals right now. I am just taking part in this world World Championship. No, I don't see myself as a contender for the 2025 title. If you look at the gap to McLaren, I am not surprised. I already told the team during the winter test here that the gap is half a second, and that proves to be the case, so I was right in that respect. If you look at the entire season, I don't think we ever really had a chance. If others make mistakes, like in Suzuka's qualifying, then we can be ahead. In Suzuka, passing was impossible, but that is not always the case. All of this points towards the fact that Red Bull is going to have a very difficult time ahead of itself, and whether we like it or not, Verstappen's future is hanging in the air. The four-time world champion is going to get his loyalty tested, because although the team provided him with the championships that he's won, it's not that Verstappen has been laying in the car and driving it like it's nothing. We've seen how much effort was put in to the 2024 championship as well as in 2021, and now that the key personnel are gone from Red Bull, we can safely assume that a tough period is coming when it comes to convincing Verstappen that there is a good foundation to work on. Be that as it may, rumours have started to swirl when it comes to teams like Mercedes and Aston Martin. These two teams are seen as the biggest candidates to sign Verstappen because of the potential they're holding ahead of the new era. Yet you might think it would be smart for Verstappen to wait at least 1 year with the new regulations and Red Bull before he makes his decision, but these opportunities have a very unique nature. They happen once in a lifetime. Although Wolff admitted that the flirting with Verstappen is now a thing of the past, I highly doubt he will pass on the opportunity to sign the four-time world champion if he had the chance to do so. This is something that has been discussed by Martin Brundle from Sky F1, and when talking about it to a greater extent, the pundit said, "I think if Max Verstappen sprung into the marketplace, I would be quite worried for George actually, because Kimi is obviously their man to flip-flop for the future, but there are a lot of ifs in there. George is doing a great job for them as team leader, but Toto missed Max once. I don't think he'll miss him a second time should he get the opportunity." Now, apart from Ferrari, the teams that are seen as favourites to have a dominant start of the 2026 season are Mercedes and Aston Martin. These two teams have a lot of unexplored potential, and when it comes to Aston Martin, the Silverstone-based squad has a lot of Red Bull's ingredients that the team used back in 2023, Newey and Honda in particular. Verstappen stated loud and clear that he would like to work again with Honda in the foreseeable future, which is a scenario that the president of the Japanese manufacturer, Koji Watanabe, expressed as well. Elaborating further on the potential collaboration with Verstappen, Watanabe said, "The number of seats will be reduced. However, as for us, we will continue to voice our opinions as Honda in deciding the drivers for 2026 and beyond. Obviously, the team has the final say in deciding which drivers join the team, but the situation will be the same as with Red Bull, where we will have our say." With all this in mind, do you think that Verstappen should leave Red Bull as soon as he can? And more importantly, do you think that the four-time world champion would have a much better time in teams like Mercedes or Aston Martin, who are seen as strong candidates to dominate in the 2026 regulated era? Let us know in the comments below, and once you do that, make sure to check out the video that appears on your screen right now.